Says who? Drive into any town in Britain and there's a pretty good chance you'll see a sign like this that says it's twinned with some other town somewhere else in the world. But what does that actually mean? Is it just something nice to put on a road sign, or is there any real historical link there? It seems like there's cases in both columns. The famous cases are ones where it's just kind of funny when you put the names together. There's the case of Dull in Scotland, which is twinned with Boring in America. And actually the original town twins, which were Toledo, Ohio and Toledo, Spain, they twinned together in 1931. Seems like historians disagree on whether there's any real historical link between those two places, but they're linked now. But town twinning in Britain had a much more serious origin, and it started here in Coventry. This was a city that was bombed heavily during World War II, so when they saw an even more devastating attack taking place against Stalingrad in the Soviet Union, many locals reached out to send messages of support, donations, supplies, and that included the mayor of Coventry, who sent this telegram expressing solidarity with the people of Stalingrad. Coventry and Stalingrad formalised their ties in 1944, and it became the first example of town twinning in the UK. After the war, the idea took off as a way to rebuild ties across the continent in the aftermath of the war. Today, there are about 2,000 twinned towns in the UK, and most of them are twinned with places in either France or Germany. Another early example was here in Oxford, which twinned with Bonn in Germany in 1947. That's before the modern German state even existed, so Britain itself didn't even have diplomatic relations with Germany at the time. So this was a pretty big move towards reconciliation between the two countries. Unfortunately, while war and peace can make these ties, it can also sometimes break them. You'll see there's a missing town on that board, and that was Perm in Russia, which twinned with Oxford in the 90s as part of efforts to forge a new relationship between Russia and the West after the end of the Cold War. But that link, along with the one in Coventry, was suspended in 2022 due to the invasion of Ukraine. You wouldn't necessarily know that in Coventry though, because they don't put twin towns on their road signs. And the reason for that is that there's too many of them. There's about 24 of them. In fact, there's so many that if you go to their website, they have to break it down by continent. And I think they encompass the full range of what town twinning can be about. There's Dresden in Germany, meaning there's actually a link between two cities which were both devastated by bombing from the other side during World War II. There's also multiple towns in America called Coventry, so of course they go on the list. There's several towns that seemingly just suggested twinning, and Coventry was like, sure. And then there's Jinan in China, which was apparently twinned as an effective way of accessing the Chinese market. Oxford's also pretty keen on twinning, although they've only got 7, which seems a bit insignificant compared to Coventry. But they actually have a whole procedure on their website. There's a list of criteria and an email address you can reach out to if you want your town to twin with them. I think we should try and get Oxford up to like 30 twins or something, just so we can see how many they try to fit on the road sign before they just give up and stop putting them there. In the case of smaller towns, it's usually more of an ad hoc arrangement. I couldn't find any particularly strong reason why Beaconsfield in Buckinghamshire should be twinned with Langres in France. But there's been delegations back and forth over the years between the agreement. I guess sometimes that's all you need. It's just a nice way for communities that are hundreds or maybe thousands of miles apart to kind of get to know each other in some small way. So why do we have twin towns? There's history to it, and sometimes there's good reasons for it. But other times the answer is basically just because why not?